Welcome to another That's What They Said, a podcast where we question the questionable lyrics of your favorite songs. Sarina&Scott Spinelli, talking Jessie's Girl by Rick Springfield. That is an Australian man, by the way.
I don't think I knew that, first of all. Did you know that? I
learned that today. Learned it today. Very much so.
So my connection to this song, as I'm sure yours was, this played at the bar that we went to in college all the time. Yeah. Right? It played.
I wrote that. I said, I believe this song is on every college campus bar after midnight.
Yes. And it is just, I actually sort of never knew what era this was from. I assumed 80s. And so I was right, I guess. But like, I never really knew because it played in that general bar vibe. And I think I would bet you at Chuck's, it still plays at the end of the night.
1,000%. If you go to any college campus, this song still plays. I mean, it still plays at bars I go to now. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Jessie's Girl.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's ever going to stop playing, even if it's 1,000 years old. It'd be like, are you playing Pavarotti or Beethoven? No, just Rick Springfield. Still playing.
You probably didn't stay out late enough. They did do a lot of Beethoven in the 4 to 5 hour. The 4 to 5 a.m.
Imagine if bars were like, what do we play to get people out of the bar?
Some LVB. Yeah. Come on. Get Ludwig on. Let's go. Turn it up to 11.
Oh, man. This song is fantastic. It's about a guy having a crush on his friend's girlfriend. A crush falling in love.
Yeah, crush wanting to steal her from his friend. Crush is like
light.
Yeah. Crush is a little light. Crush is the
Diet Coke. No,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
This is the Big Mac, the French fries, super size me,
combo.
And just give me a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this case, his friend's name is Jessie.
So did you look up the origins of this story? This song?
Yes, in a class, his friend's name.
So first of all, yeah. So the first thing is that the friend's name was Gary.
Gary.
And I just love the
notion.
So
glad it's not Gary's girl.
Because you know that it's like Gary's girl. It just doesn't quite work. Apparently, he wanted to go with Randy's girl. I guess he tried that and that didn't work. I don't know what makes Jessie's better necessarily, but Gary doesn't quite sound right. The thing also that I think people kept skipping over was that, so the story as is widely available, right, is that he and his friend Gary at the time, who he didn't seem to be like great long-term friends with, but a friend from this class he was taking had a girlfriend. And he was super into this girl, even though he actually never even like talked to her. Right?
Crush from afar.
So fine. But the part that I think that like got missed in a lot of these that like nobody made fun of, I guess Wikipedia isn't supposed to make fun of things, but what I thought was like really interesting was he was taking a stained glass class.
Yes. Like why you bury the lead? Like forget Jessie's Girl. What are you doing of course you're gonna have a crush on a girl in a class. You're taking a stained glass class.
I mean, was he going to class in like 1723? Was that? Were all the apprenticeships at the local blacksmith taken? He couldn't.
It was fixing leather, woodwork, or you could take stained glass.
Yeah, like where did he anticipate using that skill? Like what? Why?
I'm crying.
Actually, I have a pretty embarrassing quick story about that. So I don't know why I'm admitting this publicly, but
thank
you. Who knows if they listen to this, if anyone listens to this. I had a weird phase in my life where I was really into Gene Kelly. You know Gene Kelly?
Yeah, like Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly.
Yeah, Singing in the Rain.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I said to myself, you know what? I want to take a tap dance class. You probably don't know this story about me.
I don't.
And I took a tap dance class. Okay. And it was an introductory beginners thing, right? I get to the class. I didn't buy the shoes yet because I was just like, you know what? Let me just see.
Test it out.
And I took this class and I had sweatpants on and a t-shirt and I had like, dress shoes, whatever. And we're just learning like the initial step, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that whole thing. And I was drenched sweat by the end. There were children in the class who were not as exhausted by this as I was. Because it was like learning how to walk, right? Because I'm not a particularly good dancer, so I didn't know either. I didn't know the basic. Like it would be like if you didn't know how to play basketball and you're reminding someone a right-handed layup, you jump off of the foot, that kind of thing, right? And so I got out of the class. I was like, first of all, this, right? Like I am not doing this anymore because it's impossible and I stink at it. But more than that, I was like, when will I ever use this skill? Much like the stained glass point is like, when was he just going to start blowing stained glass for people and have his own little, like I was never going to just bust out tap dancing in the middle of a wedding. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you got the right shoes on? Wait a second, guys.
There's a few skill sets that are only used in very specific situations, that being one of them. Hey,
Yes.
I'm glad that Rick Springfield decided to go with a music career instead of stained glass, but maybe he was like, what am I going to do with this? Although,
did you know that he was an actor? I didn't know that.
Oh, no, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he was in General Hospital, actually.
Just crush on everyone there, too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one other final thing before you get to the thing is that this was on his 5th album.
Yes.
5th.
He kept trying. He kept trying for Jessie's Girl.
How did he get 4 records? This is what I don't get about one-hit wonders.
I know.
How do they get 4 records to get to the 5th?
Like, are they like, no, try again? Like, at some point, you got to, like, hit and then...
That's like a minimum of 60 songs he put out.
That people use their time for, spent money on, invested
in. And we're like,
I
don't get it.
I mean, maybe Australia, there's a lot of, like, more stained glass happening in Australia than musicians.
Stained glass.
I don't know. I did read that he chose Jessie because he was wearing a T-shirt with the name of a football player, Ron Jessie, on it.
Yes, saw that as well. Yep. Some random guy. But again, like, that's just a funny thing to think about, like that if he was in New York in like the mid-90s, the show could have been called Lavernius's Girl. You know what I mean?
I'm just glad it wasn't Gary's. Man, that song would have been it would have been another failure. Wow,
yes.
Just something off with the song. We just go back to all of Rick Springfield's songs and it's like one word off.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
You know that I wish I had the brick-a-shaw's girl.
Exactly.
Something doesn't quite, Jessie just seems to roll off the tongue a little cleaner, I think.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, Jessie's Girl was written and performed by Rick Springfield. He's Australian. I learned this today. It was released on his 5th album, Working Class Dog. Kind of appropriate if you think about what he's been through. Stained Glass, 4 other albums. This is working for him. And it was released in February 1981. We're talking the 80s here. Yes. And in 1981, here we get to the billboards. It ranked number 5. Oh, no, sorry. Excuse me. I'll get to that in a second. It debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 on March 28th. It took a while for it to hit number 1. It did hit number 1. And it hung out on the billboards for quite a while, which is why we still hear it to this day. But Billboard ranked it as number 5 for all of 1981 of that year.
Oh,
okay. It's a reputable song. In 2006, it was named number 20 on VH1's 100 Greatest Songs of the 80s also.
Honestly, all of these numbers, again, we always joke about how off we are and how off they seem. This kind of tracks. This feels right. It was well received. It's been used in a number of movies since, right? That I think that also really helps prolong it because it's catchy, but it's not like any more or less catchy than other songs of the era. It just so happens that it, got caught on in a couple of this or that. It's like how, not that they're the same type of song, but how like oh God, the Queen song in Wayne's World. I'm blanking on Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah. That song got a huge bump after being in Wayne's World. Like,
you're right.
You never know what happens. Yeah, so
that's true. That's a good song. Should add that to the list. Do you want to get to the lyrics?
We should add that to the list actually. Let's get to the lyrics.
Okay, so right off the bat, I love the first part where he's like, Jessie is a friend. Yeah, I know. He's been a good friend of mine. And then you're waiting for the but. And then he delivers a but. He's like, I got this friend. He's a good friend. Like, he's trying to convince himself this thing. But then he says, but lately something's changed that ain't hard to define. Jesse's got himself a girl and I want to make her mine. That is.
Well, here's where I take exception, right? And this is probably, you would never expect me to be this person.
Oh, good.
It's interesting how little agency the woman has in here. Like, she's just literally an object, right? Where he goes, Jesse's got himself a girl. Like, he went out and bought himself a Porsche. And Rick is like, I want it to make it mine. I want to make her mine. I want to make her mine. Like, she is in a state of being. Like,
This song has a lot of that throughout. I
yeah, yeah.
hardly actually hear anything about the girl or how great she is or that she makes him laugh, knowing they met in the stained glass class and they never spoke a word. This makes a lot more sense. He hasn't really figured her out. But yeah, I mean, the dilemma is that he had a friend. I don't know if they're friends anymore, whether it's Gary or Jessie, and he's jealous.
I mean, he's jealous, and he's like, like again. I remember this feeling in high school. When you asked a girl out, the difference is he was like a middle 20s or early 30s man, maybe or late 20s, something like that. Like so, like
Yeah.
I also want to say, I'm like, my man, you've had 4 records, you were on TV. Go get another Jesse's Girl. Like,
Also, yes. I mean, yeah, he's got himself a girl, want to make him around. Like, come again? You sure this is a friend of yours? Like, you really need to figure out your friendships at this point. I don't know if I
well,
ever meet, like, I have friends and then they bring in their boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God, where do I get one of those?
yeah.
What?
I could see it if maybe it was like if they both, like, basically the story here in reality is that he just thought she was super hot and
Yeah.
that was it, right? Which
Yeah.
is fine, right? But
Yeah.
like it's not like the whole I want to make her mine is like I'm sure there's someone that looks similar to her somewhere
Yeah.
else.
A lot of hot
Like
people out there.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not as if like she was like we both are orphans who grew up on the North Pole and like we're this one weird sect of some religion that no one knows about and
Correct.
we both are, Orlando Magic fans who root for, there's no connection. So
There
he
might
just
be one Facebook group available for those two
exactly.
people, but yes, that is not the case at all. It's just
Or the old Orlando Magic Orphan from the North Pole Facebook group. Yes.
right. I'm sure you've passed by it.
We also want to make
Get
clear
in.
we are not offending those people. So
No,
if you're listening to that and you are of that subgroup of a subgroup of a subgroup, we apologize.
we've lost 2 listeners. No. I wish that I had Jesse's girls. I wish I had yet Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman like that? And then I like online.
Stained glass class is what I would say.
Yeah.
That's where you can find her.
But yes, to your point, like there's only one woman that has hair, 2 eyes, like she's in shape,
Yeah.
she's artistic.
How hot could she have been?
Right. Beyonce's in
and
your class. I don't know.
And it's not like he lives exactly. And it's not like he lives in, some small town in the middle of the country where there's like, a total of 10 boys and 10 girls and in the whole town, they all grow up together. This is, I think you presume Los Angeles or some major city in Australia, right? Like he's not hanging out in the middle of nowhere. So
If
sorry,
you can get
Rick.
to a stained glass class.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In a place that has a population that will support a stained glass class,
You need at
there are
least
enough women.
50,000 people
Yes, exactly.
in a radius.
For the 7 that will show up for that thing. Exactly.
You know what it was? The Jesse's girl was the only woman in the stained glass class.
Maybe, frankly, if it wasn't for this, he would have committed to the life of stained glass. So we have Jesse's girl to thank for him making this song. Something to think about. I realize the obvious question is like, who is Jesse's girl? And as it turns out, they weren't able to ever track her down and figure out who it was. But I also I saw a really funny, and people should watch this. The Jimmy Kimmel, he put up a little like a behind the music fake thing about to this point that obviously everyone's I'm sure had this like, all right, yeah, it's one thing to worry about who's Jesse's girl, but like, what about being Jessie? Like that's kind of fucked up, right? Just to find out that like you hear in a song, like Gary hears this song, he's like, wait a minute, that's why we were friends?
Yes. Yeah. How many times did they go out to lunch without me?
Yeah.
I recall him giving
Is my whole life a sham? Like,
right. He's not really my friend at all. Right. Yeah. This is a complete like scandal. Yeah, no, it's messed up for Jessie. Although I assume, yeah, there's moments why this song gets played at bars across America, that there's someone like at a bar and they're like, that girl should really not be with my friend, right? Like there's got to be that moment at least of she's too good for you or something like that. Maybe not necessarily I hope they date me, but I'm sure it's happened if it's a relatable song.
Oh, absolutely. And executing the switch is impossible. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
knows that. But one lyric I thought was a little creepy was, and she's watching him with those eyes, and she's loving him with that body.
I
And
just know it.
yeah.
Wow. I've got to convince myself.
It's like, we get it. We get it. But like I was like, this verse was like one verse away from like describing in detail what he thought her body looked like without clothes on. You know what I mean? Like some
Yes.
creepy, disgusting, like,
Yes.
all right, we cool it, brother.
Yeah.
Cool it.
And when Jesse hears that part of the song, he's like, what the? I mean, Gary, excuse
Yes.
me. What the
Yeah.
hell is wrong with you? What's wrong
Yeah,
with you?
exactly.
Except he, you know, Rick Springfield's running all the way to the bank while Gary is with or without his girl.
Perhaps running a
Right.
failed stained glass company. I think that all three of them eventually left the class fairly soon thereafter. But I will say another thing lyrically.
Mhm.
This song we mentioned at the top, right? That everybody hears it at college at midnight or whatever at the end of the night, and you're drunk and you're singing along, and we think we know the words. I don't think anyone knows the second verse of this song. Like I read it, I was like, did they just write this an hour before I looked this up? Like, what is this verse? It doesn't sound familiar to me at all, and I don't know. I was wondering if you had.
I'll play along with this with the charade. That
Did
one?
you do you know that second verse? I mean,
I did, but I sing the song at karaoke.
oh my God.
I'll play along with the charade. I mean,
That doesn't seem to be a reason to change. You know, I feel so
Also-
dirty when I just this whole verse, I truly I had never heard it before. So I was like, not never, but it just didn't ring
You've heard
true
it
at
just
all.
you probably had listening experience that I usually have with songs, but
Yeah.
thankfully I do
Yeah, yeah.
karaoke every once in a while that I end up learning a handful of lyrics until I forget them again. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be a reason to change. Like, yeah, there isn't a reason to change because like she doesn't want you. I like, you know, she wants Jesse. I think he's like also delusional. Like, I'll play along with this charade. Like, is this a game to you, my man? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I will fight back on Rick's defense a little bit here.
All right, all right.
It's unclear if Jesse's girl doesn't want him
We
yet
don't
because
actually
he's
hear
no,
from her.
we don't know. We've never heard from her. She's not involved in this decision. She's going to get passed around like cattle. She has no say in the matter. She will either be with Gary or she will be with Rick, and that is the end of it.
She might be a mute.
She doesn't get to choose, Sarina. That's not how it works. Okay? That's not how it works. Okay. 1981, Rick got to choose.
You're
So,
right. It was 1981. I mean,
That's
when
it.
he says, I feel so dirty when they start talking cute, I was like, why are you feeling dirty? Like, what's
That was
going on
disgusting.
here? I
That
was
was
like,
disgusting.
this became X-rated.
Have you ever had this happen though, where you've crushed on someone else's significant other?
Yeah, I think I've been like, oh, they're very charming, you know, never to the point where I'm like, Jesse's girl.
I don't think I've ever seen one of my friends' wives or girlfriends, and I'm frankly, and I mean this sincerely, I'm in a very a fortuitous spot because I actually don't. I like all of my friends' significant others. Yeah, like the worst I can say about some of them is that like we just don't have a ton to talk about, but they're all really cool people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't.
so
I
that
wouldn't,
being
but I
said,
don't
I've
look
never-
at anybody and I'm like,
Exactly.
Like, I think you shut that part of your brain down for opportunity immediately.
That's why I don't think that he was that good of friends with Gary. I think, and I think it's evidenced by the fact that they kind of like broke away. Like, I just don't think that they, because anybody that like if like I don't know, like, you know, Mark, like Mark's wife is lovely, but as soon as Mark introduces me to his girlfriend at the time, now wife, like immediately it's just like you said, and that part of your brain just turns off. It's just like, all right, well, this is you know, his girlfriend, his wife, her husband, her boyfriend. So you just like click into that next viewing of it, even if that person is your type or is, you know, you get along with or whatever.
But
like,
even then, I guess, to my point, like I could understand me having a crush on someone, but I also am like, I just end up getting a really good friend out of it because it's completely off limits. Like there is no that's it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, in general, again, the only caveat here is that it must not have been a very good friend, and it also must not have been a very serious relationship. I think that if it was like Gary was like, yo, my man, this is my wife, Sophia, whatever Jesse's girl's name was.
Sophia Vergara, yeah.
Well, that's another thing about this song that's always tricky is that like Jessie, I think at the time was decidedly a boy's name, right?
Yes.
Now it's kind of, it goes either way. In fact, I
could.
argue I don't know, I'm making this up, but Jessie feels like it's like 60-40 girl boy.
You're right.
To me.
It keeps the mystery alive, which is
Yeah.
why it still works when they play it at bars now.
Gender neutral song.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm
Rick
all
Springfield.
for it.
Rick Springfield leading the pack.
Way to go. We had no idea. 1981. My last lyric that's actually my favorite line in the song and in the music video, which you can touch on very quickly, but he goes, and I'm looking in the mirror all the time, wondering what she don't see in me. I've been funny, I've been cool with the lines. Ain't that the way love's supposed to be? Oh my God. Well, one.
It is though. It is.
Like I just imagine Fonzie, like, I've been funny, I've been cool with the lines. Like, ain't that the way love's supposed to be? Like, I've got love all wrong. I had no idea.
I think he's right though. I think he's right. Gotta be honest. That's how that initial thing works.
Oh my God.
Gotta be cool with the lines. Gotta be funny. You know,
and he's
gotta
pointing to himself in the music video during this part.
Little
finger gun waving, like, you're okay. You're gonna get it one day.
This was right at the dawn of MTV, right? Like the beginning of the music video era, so that you could tell they didn't quite know what the point of a music video was. It's just like them with really bright lights behind them, like not clearly like it's not. I mean, calling it a music video, then it's of a different. It's like Chicago pizza and New York pizza. They're technically both pizza, but I mean they're different. They're very different, So.
Did you have any more lyrics?
I have no more thoughts. I do think though that this song is. It does make sense why this song still knocks, because first of all, the initial that that always rocks, and then also just like you said, there are a couple lines that are kind of creepy, but overall it doesn't ever fully venture into yo,
right?
Like it's never disgusting. Like it's a little creepy,
playful.
But
and
playful,
if you're not that friend, like if you're at a bar and like your friend ends up talking to the hot chick at the bar, or vice versa, the hot dude, and you're like, man, I wanted to talk to them first, like that could also be relative to a song like this, I think. And that's where I think it works.
It's like a modern version of this would be if there was just like that Craigslist missed connections.
Yeah.
That's basically what this is. This is just a misconnection turned into a #1 hit single.
I agree. Did you by chance see the music video? If not, I'm excited to show you something.
I saw a bit of it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to send you a text message with a screenshot from the last scene in the music video.
Okay.
And I just want you to describe what you're seeing, because the end of the music video is the most insane ending.
What? I didn't get to this. So there's just a man in a dog costume?
There's a man in a dog costume, and then Jessie and Jessie's girl are watching. So part of the music video is Rick Springfield playing a concert, and it just looks like he's singing the song, and then he's talking to his mirror, and there's different scenes. But the last scene, he is like, oh, I want Jessie's girl, and then he ends it, and then it shows the scene of an empty audience with a dog with a tie and a white shirt. And then Jessie and his girlfriend in the back just watching, like, I can't believe you, bro. It's the weirdest ending.
Also, that's a very lifelike mask of a dog. I mean, it is.
It could be a dog. I don't know.
Right? It looks like a dog, doesn't it? It looks like a dog in a tie.
I recommend just skipping through the video and then going to the last scene. And I was like kind of blasé watching the video, and I was like, whoa, what just happened? Oh,
that's a fantastic picture. Fantastic.
I might put that as like my like backdrop. I don't know. I might put in like my computer.
Just have the dog right here, the dog's head.
What's going on, Sarina? Oh, you never seen Rick Springfield's Jessie's Girl music video? Well,
you don't know?
Huh? You don't even know? Yeah. My final thoughts is that I'm really glad it's not Gary's girl. I wonder if he ever found out. I assume that they did.
Everything I've read said that nobody really, Gary didn't know, Gary's girl didn't know, the whole thing. They couldn't find Gary's girl, the whole bit. Nobody could find out anything.
Do you think the Jessies of the world were worried around their friends? All Jessie.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like just the notion of, Well, yeah, also like anybody, I think it's also probably true that a lot of people in his life were wondering if they were the inspiration for it.
Yeah.
And they were like, don't cuff your chick around Rick Springfield, if you know what I mean.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Guys,
Talking into his mirror.
Spitting game to his mirror. He's a lunatic.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, well, that's it. Let's wrap up this episode of That's What They Said. Shout out to Rick Springfield. I hope you found someone who doesn't belong to anyone else at this point.